Storm from Racing Blue, a breakthrough in sports nutrition for horses.
Hi everybody, Mike Beard here, taking a look at the feature race at Churchill Downs this Saturday, race number 10. It's the Grade 3 River City Handicap, $175,000 purse. For older horses, they're going to go 9 furlongs on the turf course at Churchill Downs. We have a big field in here of 10 horses. As you can see from the entry card there, just a lot of different ways to go in here. You have the defending champion of this race and Mr. Misunderstood for Brad Cox. He's 5-2 on the morning line. He won this race last year. He's a horse who just likes to win races, really likes Churchill Downs. In a lot of ways, he is the horse to beat in here. You have 3 for Mike Maker, the 1 Cullum Road, the 6 Space Mountain, the 7 Bema's Boy. They're all horses that Mike Maker has claimed in the not so distant past, and they've all won races since Maker has taken over. You have a horse like number 2 E-Mouse, who just finally won a race, his first win since arriving stateside from Great Britain. He won an allowance race at Keeneland. He's got a chance in this race. You have Admission Office, the 9, dropping out of graded stakes races. A lot going on in this race. Let's take a look before we get into the individual contenders, the Time Form US Pace Projector. And you can see it doesn't favor any particular running style, but it does have the 8 Get Western out there on a clear early lead. And when you start going through this field from top to bottom, it's pretty hard to argue with that Pace Projector's assessment of how this race might be run. Get Western really does look like the clear early speed in this race, and that could give him an advantage. I think he's a horse that when you start looking through his PPs, I think you might worry a little bit about the distance for him. I'm not sure that 9 furlongs is really going to play to his advantage. But he ran a fast race 2 back when he won a restricted stakes race at Kentucky Downs. And it does really look like he's going to have all the best of it on the front end in this race. I think it makes him dangerous. I don't know if he's good enough to beat this field, but the pace advantage could go a long way for him. We'll see what he does. I'm going to use him at least defensively because I'm worried that he's just going to get loose in this race. But I wonder if he's good enough. The horse to beat is the 4 Mr. Misunderstood. There's just a lot to like about him. He's 11 for 20 in his career on turf. He goes for a very high percentage trainer who's just starting to break out all around the country over the last couple of years in Brad Cox. This horse is 4 for 5 in his career at Churchill Downs. And he won this race last year. Now, when he won it last year, I don't think it was necessarily this strong of a field. And it was also over some very yielding ground. There was a lot of give in that ground, and that might have also helped this horse because overall, I do think he's a horse who's probably a little bit better going a little bit shorter than this. He can get this distance, obviously. I don't think it's his best distance. And it's also, I think, just worth noting that so far this year, he's really only made 4 starts so far this year. He hasn't won any of them. For a horse who just likes to win races, it does feel like this year hasn't gone necessarily according to plan for Mr. Misunderstood. I think that makes him a little vulnerable in here. What you like about him are all the other things, this fact that he likes to win races, likes this turf course. And I think you also like that he's just a very tactical kind of horse. He can get the right trip in this race, and that could go a long way as well. He's a contender to be sure. I think his last race, which was also over this distance, was a step in the right direction for him. He finished second to Space Mountain, who's also back in here. If you look at the short comment, it says he hung at the end. I'll disagree with that. I don't think he hung in that race. He just got hooked up into a duel with Space Mountain for the last furlong there, and he just got outfinished at the end. But he didn't run poorly. But again, that was a 9 furlong race, and he couldn't get it done at the end. I wonder if this distance is really where he's most effective. But he's clearly a contender in this race. Let's just touch on briefly the 3 Maker horses. Cullum Road. I'm a fan of Cullum Road's. I think the advantage he might have in this race is just that I think he really likes this distance. 9 furlongs is no problem for this horse, but he's a horse who doesn't have a lot of speed. He'll be trying to come from out of it. And I'm not quite sure that he's good enough to win a race like this. He's 2 for 13 since Maker claimed him last year, and he's struggled in the stakes ranks, that's for sure. I like him as a horse. I don't know if I like him that much in this race. Space Mountain is one of the other Maker horses. He's another horse, so I don't think you worry about distance with him. He did win that race over Mr. Misunderstood at 9 furlongs, 2 starts back in the Remington Green. He ran well that day. He was very wide throughout the running from an outside post. and he got the best of a late duel with Mr. Misunderstood. I thought he ran fine. They tried to go a mile and a half with him last time. I won't hold that race against him. Overall, his form is solid. He's another horse who I don't necessarily look at him as necessarily a graded stakes type of horse, but he's pretty good. Makers seems to have him in good form right now. I think he could contend in this race to be sure. He's going to need a trip, though, from off the pace. And then Maker has Bema's Boy, the 7. He's 15-1 on the line. He's got to improve to beat this field. Worth noting that he has improved since Maker claimed him back in May at Churchill Downs. He's run him 4 times since he's claimed him. He's won 2 of those races. One of the losses 2 starts back is just a race that you just want to put a line through. He totally missed the start of that race. He had no chance breaking, a good 10 lengths behind that field. I would put a line through that one and you take it out. He's won 2 races in a row. I think the distance could be okay for him. He just won a race at a mile and a half when Maker stretched him out. So there are things to like about Bema's Boy, and he might be a price. I won't be, too hard on him, although I do think he has to improve in this race. Mouse, the 2, is another horse. I guess he has a chance in here. I like some of his races since he's arrived stateside. He couldn't quite get it done up at Woodbine, although he ran a couple of nice races up there. They brought him down to Keeneland last time, stretched him out around 2 turns, and he got the job done. It is worth noting that he got an absolute perfect trip in that race. Listen, maybe he'll get another one in here and take a step forward, and it'll be all it takes for him to win this race. But I don't know. I was kind of against him. We'll see what he does. I am a fan of that horse, however. Let's put up the picks for the race, though. I'm going to try and beat Mr. Misunderstood, and I'm going to try and beat him with the 9 Admission Office. He'll be my top pick in the race. Admission Office, the concern with him is just his running style. He just doesn't have any speed at all. He just winds up at the back of the pack in all of his races, and then he tries to rally through the stretch. And I think you can just sort of go back to any one of his 4 starts so far this year. He won first time back at Keeneland, and then in his next 3, they're all sort of carbon copies of the same. He winds up back off the pace. He winds up down towards the inside in the stretch trying to rally. And he just catches traffic every time. I thought his Dixie was really good. He wound up getting clear late in there, and he made a good run at Catholic Boy for second. His Wise Dan was sort of the same thing. Down inside, looking for room down past the 8th pole, finally getting some late, and then rushing up at the end, but coming up short. And last time they tried him in the Shadwell turf. He wasn't going to win that race, but he was blocked very late in the stretch. It was a race that was falling apart at the end. And if he could have gotten clear, he would have been a lot closer, but he just could not get clear. That's something you have to worry about with horses like him because that's his running style. But it's going to be up to Jose Ortiz to find this horse somewhere to run in the stretch. I think if he can get him room, he will be running. I just sort of looked at the race and felt like he just might be the best horse in here. If they can get him a trip, I think he's supposed to be really tough here in the River City, which goes as Churchill Downs. Race number 10, and I'll put him on top. 9, 4, 8, 6 are my top 4 picks in here for the Grade 3 River City. Race number 10, Churchill Downs, approximate post time, 5:36 Eastern Time. Good luck.